All right, guys, welcome back to the third episode of Fourth and Football. I'm Jacob Revis.
I'm Wyatt Staggs.
And I'm Ricky Patrick.
All right, guys, let's dive right into it. It was a fun-filled, action-packed weekend of football. We're gonna dive right in, man. We're gonna go right to Panthers bench Bryce Young, 18 games in. How y'all feel about that?
Feel like it's about time. You can only lose so many games for so long. I mean, he's got 19 picks, 18 games played. You can't win games like that.
That's true. Do you feel it's unfair the way they handled the Bryce Young? I mean, the whole thing from start to finish?
No, I wouldn't say unfair. I mean, I feel like he had a fair shot. I mean, he started pretty much all of last season, started every game this season, and their offenses looked like the worst offense in the league.
I think that you gotta, when you have something like Bryce Young's situation happen, you drafted this kid first overall, but you gave up your whole farm system essentially.
Yeah.
You gave up your future. You gave up your number one wide receiver coming into this situation. It's not all just Bryce. I feel like this is a 50-50 situation. I mean, this is the same organization that had Sam Darnold, who's looking pretty good this year, would y'all say? And Baker Mayfield. So is this really just Bryce Young's fault, or is this a Panthers organizational problem?
I would argue David Tepper is probably 70% of the blame. But you do have to take some blame if you're Bryce. For some context around the situation, he is the most sacked quarterback since 2023 began. This 2023 season. Under 60% completion. You do argue the handling of it and everything, but that's the reality of the NFL nowadays. Not many quarterbacks are sitting back anymore. They're kind of seeing if they can play off the rip because the transition isn't as big from college to pros anymore.
I mean, if you just look at a guy that got drafted right behind him, I mean, look at how C.J. Stroud's playing. He didn't come in with any crazy weapons. He had guys that was already on the team he just built chemistry with.
But do you say C.J. Stroud in the same situation with Bryce Young? Is he performing like C.J. Stroud we know him to be?
I don't believe he's performing like he is on this team, but I do believe he would do extremely.
I think he would do well.
Yeah, I think he would do well against.
I just don't think that he would be C.J. Stroud.
No,
I think that there's a lot of factors that go into it. Yeah, because that Texans defense it's stout. Yeah. And you've got weapons there. I mean, and they've already started to build on to what they have there.
Now we have weapons, but nobody knew who Nico Collins was, Tank Dell was before C.J. Stroud made them a name.
I mean, but you also had who's that quarterback y'all had right before he went in?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills, exactly. Yeah. We don't even know the kid's name.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. Just.
So do you think do you think he's punch drunk, for lack of better words, at this point? Do you think he's scared? He's scared to sit back in the pocket and let it develop?
I think he doesn't have any confidence, really. I mean, you lose so many games. You can tell your organization kind of is starting to push away from you.
Yeah.
That's got to kill your confidence.
Got to. I mean, as a person, it has to kill your confidence. Probably extremely tough situation to be in. I mean, I hate that it's happening for the guy, but at the same time, I just don't believe he's a starting quarterback in this league. I don't see special.
No.
With all these quarterbacks that struggle, you see special still, most of them.
I thought Stroud should have went one in the original draft. I mean, you look at Stroud, he's got the size, the arm, he's got all the talent. And then you look at Bryce Young, I mean, a little undersized. I never thought he had the greatest, most live arm.
I mean, to be fair, what Alabama quarterbacks have succeeded in the league outside of we've seen a little bit of success with Tua.
And Jalen Hurts.
And Jalen Hurts.
If you count him, Alabama.
Yeah, by the way, of Oklahoma. But still. Let's get a final statement on it. I mean, do y'all officially consider Bryce Young a bust?
Yes.
I would say he's a bust, but I wouldn't say he's – I've been seeing a lot of takes online that he's the worst number one overall pick of all time. I mean, up there with Jamarcus Russell. Mm-hmm. The situation the kid was dropped in, you can't say that about him.
That's true. I agree with you guys. I feel like he is a bust. I don't feel like he has what it takes to be a starting quarterback in this league. And have a great backup like Colt McCoy, great backup career maybe like Colt McCoy.
I hope he proves us wrong.
I hope he gets a fresh start somewhere, and, maybe a different team, maybe Miami.
Yeah. But for now, I'm out on Bryce Young.
I'm out too.
Moving on, guys. We got the games of the week. Like we talked about earlier, it was action-packed. There was some crazy upsets. We're going to dive into a few games that, people want to hear and we like to talk about. First, we're going to go Cowboys versus Saints. 44-19, Saints blew out the Cowboys. My first question is, can Derek Carr consistently play at this level?
I'm going to say no, because he's never consistently played at this level. I mean, we've seen it for years. He'll have those good games, and then towards the middle, the end of the season, he starts to have that decline.
I mean, Derek Carr, when he was a Raider, before he broke his leg, I believe is what his major injury was over there, was special. I mean, he was on MVP pace. I feel like he's finally getting it put together. He finally has that confidence back. I mean, he's over here doing Michael Jackson in the end zone. Of course, he's got his confidence back.
Yeah.
He can play. And I'm for one was sleeping on this Saints team because I didn't think that this was the same Derek Carr was over with the Raiders. So if Clint Kubiak found something special with him and they got something rolling, I'm gonna put money on this Saints team to go far.
Okay. I agree with you. I feel like a lot of this Clint Kubiak kind of unlocking Derek Carr's, I guess, peak. Right systems he's in. You alluded to it. He's shown flashes of being an MVP type of player. It's never been consistent, whether it's been health or some way he's been derailed. But confidence is not lacking. You allude to that as well. The celebration in the end zone and everything. Probably the most confident I've seen Derek Carr in his entire career.
I mean, last week he was out there talking trash to, was it J.C. Horn? You know, he's a top dog, and I haven't seen that from Derek Carr in a long time. And
I'll be a little bit more higher on Derek Carr when I see him play a real defense. I mean, he's played a Cowboys defense that, I mean, we saw the defense. They scored on every drive of the game.
Yeah, 6 of 6 at the starting off, I believe. Very reminiscent of the Cowboys we saw in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, they've allowed, over 40 points the last 2 home games?
Yeah.
I mean, this Cowboys defense, I think the Saints offense was amazing, and we all have to agree about that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that you discount this Cowboys defense because of it. You still have an A1 pass rusher. You still have
he didn't look A1 that last game.
I mean,
how many pressures did he have?
That's true. They did a really good job of neutralizing Micah.
Kubiak put him in a situation though to where they were having to play cover 2 shell a lot. Whereas the Browns last week, I mean, they couldn't uncork the long, so they were able to go after him.
Yeah,
so.
But this
they didn't. Sorry to interrupt you. They didn't keep Derek Carr. They kept him mobile for the most part, which doesn't keep him in the pocket there for Micah to target. You know,
this is what we've seen against the Browns. Didn't do a good job of neutralizing Micah, but I mean, we saw it last year with Green Bay. We saw it this game. We saw it a little bit more last year towards the end of the season. Teams, they found out when you neutralize Micah, that defense is not all that great.
It's not the same. There's not the amount of pressure. I feel like you can run right at Micah Parsons. That's a very bad trait in his game, I would say.
Overshown, and the linebacking core looked great that first week against the Browns, but this last week they were inexistent. It was like Kamara was getting everything to that second.
And maybe they thought it's the same old Saints from the last few years. We're going to go in here. We're just going to walk right over them. But it's clearly a different Saints team.
Sure.
Cool. I feel like the Cowboys are feeling the absence of Bland for sure. But I want to talk about Dak Prescott. For nothing, he tried to will that team to a victory. I'll give him that credit. It wasn't a good performance, but you can see it in his eyes. I would watch the replay, and when he's letting the ball go, you can just look in his eyes. He's trying to will that team to a victory. Didn't make good decisions. Some were just piss poor passes. The run game was obsolete. He tried. It was a valiant effort, but bad decision making on that Prescott's part.
I wasn't impressed with their offense week 1 either, though, against the Browns. I feel like Dak doesn't really have any chemistry with anyone other than, a CD or maybe even Jake Ferguson. But Jake Ferguson, I mean, he goes down with that injury too. We don't know how long he'll be out or if he will be out at all. But, I mean, the run game looked stagnant last week. The passing game, he doesn't have any chemistry at all, it seems like, with those receivers. I mean, we saw it when that receiver slipped. When that first interception, receiver slips on the route, and then the rest of the game, Dak starts to just look more towards CD and people he's comfortable with, and then it gets even more downhill from there.
I'll agree with that. But I think as we see the year progress, I think this Cowboys offense will get better. Okay. I don't think that this is the best we've seen in the Cowboys offense. I think we come back week 8, week 9, we're going to say, okay, we might have a playoff contender that's going far. Wouldn't say Super Bowl contender just because, like you said, Micah has some holes in his game, but there's still a playoff team, a solid playoff team, and you can't sleep on that.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think that offense will pick up. I mean, chemistry takes time, though. It's not like an overnight thing. Of course, he's going to have to build throughout the season, get kind of more used to Tolbert. I mean, Brandon Cooks just doesn't look like the same Brandon Cooks really to me this year. I mean, he's not getting any separation on his routes, it seems like. Tolbert had some flashes, but like I said, that chemistry, I just don't see it there. Same thing with rookie Brooks. I mean, when he slipped out of that route, and then the rest of the game, he didn't even look his way.
I'm going to disagree. I think CeeDee Lamb covers up how bad this offense actually is. Take CeeDee Lamb, put a regular receiver in there, not CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb busting open plays for 90 yards, 70 yards. Take all that out. I mean, what is Dak doing with the ball? Where's their offense lives through him? I think it's a lackluster offense, and I think CeeDee Lamb's presence is the only thing that keeps it explosive.
I agree.
That's why they paid the man, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's why you get paid, but if you have no other options when it's crunch time, you're going to revert back to that one option you trust. If you take that away, you're not going to score. But the New Orleans defense should not be overlooked. They're serious.
Who does New Orleans have this upcoming week?
They have the Eagles
coming
up.
That's
loss.
I might be right there with who for the Saints.
For the Saints,
I don't know. I'm up in there about that one. So I think the Saints are better than the Falcons, and the Falcons took the. But moving on, man, we're gonna go next to the next game. Chiefs versus Bengals. 26-25. Chiefs came out. Is this the best rivalry in the modern NFL? Like the two teams we have?
I would probably have to say so. Yeah, I mean, you feel the tension when they play. The players on both sides have been very vocal about how they feel about each other.
True.
And I mean, Joe Burrow's the only QB we've seen really get the best out of Patrick Mahomes, like beat him in the big games out of any of the quarterbacks we've seen. So I would probably say, yeah, it's probably the best rivalry in modern football.
It's one I look forward to seeing every week, every week that we get to see it, whether it's in the playoffs or regular season, whether it's in Arrowhead or in Cincinnati. That game is always a must-see game.
Yeah, and that schedule it is so too. I think it was a good Bengals loss.
Yeah,
I think they played really well. Showed clear progression from week one, but at the end, Travis Kelce, he was not really a big factor in this game. But Travis Kelce and Mahomes, they were able to get the dub like they're always able to do. What's y'all's take on that?
Mahomes had a bad game. I'll just say it. He had a bad game. I mean, bad decision making. He really got bailed out, I think, by that defense. And then he did what he does best, though. End of the game, he comes down in the fourth quarter and gets drives going and sets them up for the game-winning field goal. I mean, it happens all the time. We'll see Mahomes start off the game really poor. We've seen it in the Super Bowls. He starts off the game poor. And then when it comes down to go win the game, he always gets the job done.
It's like we were talking last week about the Michael Jordan comp. Because he kind of just turn it on like that.
LeBron. It was the LeBron comp.
Was it? No.
It was LeBron. I promise you.
Was it LeBron?
I would never mention Michael Jordan.
No,
it was LeBron.
It was Mike for sure.
I think it was LeBron. I'm going to change to Michael, though. How do you feel, Ricky?
Mahomes' performance, I have to agree. It wasn't the best Mahomes performance we've ever seen, but Mahomes hasn't had to perform well for the past 2 years because that run game has been solid. I mean, Pacheco looked great. Unfortunately, he did get injured. We'll see whether it's Carson Steele or Kareem Hunt coming back. But that offense has been a run-first offense for the past 2 years, and they've looked very successful because of it.
I mean, they're averaging they had under 300 yards of total offense, I believe, the Chiefs did against the Bengals. Which, shout out to the Bengals defense. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from you. Was it more, do y'all feel it was more so the Bengals defense or just underwhelming play by the Chiefs?
I'll say the Bengals defense. I mean, you heard him in pregame. He came out and said, Xavier Worthy is not going to do anything on us. He can run straight. And he looked to be right. I mean, Xavier Worthy didn't do anything on him. In fact, he got a pick guarding Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, 3 turnovers.
Yep.
I mean, I think Burrow said it on Kelsey's podcast. They are built to beat the Chiefs, and you can see that in how the team is structured on defense. Like, they are specifically built to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. And whether that happens this year whenever we see it, which I hope we do, we'll come to find out. But I think they won this game. They just got bailed out by a bad call. The Chiefs did, for sure.
Okay. Controversial call for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned Travis Kelce. I want to touch on Travis Kelce a little bit. 39 yards through 2 weeks. It clearly isn't the same Travis Kelce, but do you think he's still going to show up to ball when he needs to ball later in the season?
I'll say no. I mean, we've seen it through 2 weeks. Rashee Rice is the guy.
Yeah.
He's looked like the guy. I don't know if he had 100 last game. I know the week before he had 100 in 3 quarters. And I know he probably was somewhere around the 80 range, I think, this week. I wasn't sure on the exact number.
Okay.
But He looks like the main target guy. I like him in the slot, how they're kind of using him out of the slot.
Kind of like Devontae Adams.
It kind of reminds me of Adams or even Keenan Allen back with the
Yeah.
Chargers. Xavier Worthy, it looks like they have that speed threat on the outside to take the top off on defenses. And, I mean, they had Pacheco. I'm excited to see that offense without Pacheco and see if that run game can stay the same, kind of how we've seen with the Niners,
Yeah.
or if they're going to kind of revert back to the pass. I think if they revert back to the pass, we might see some more Kelsey action, but not the same Kelsey we've seen in the past. I think Rashee Rice is that new number one guy for him.
Okay.
Yeah, this next matchup is going to really tell us how they're structuring their offense, especially with Pacheco being gone. I mean, I think that Kelsey's going to have a solid game. You know, maybe a couple receptions, a touchdown, but I don't think that he's the guy like you said. I think Rashid is their number one. He is the guy that they're looking to get the first downs now, and rightfully so. He's got it. It's A1 player in this league now.
Did y'all see Marquise? More than likely is going to be out for this
he's
season.
out for the season.
Yep.
Yeah. So that puts a damper on things for the Chiefs, but that probably makes the Buffalo Bills very happy. Bills versus Dolphins, man, that was, not what we expected to watch that game. I kind of expected a explosive game, highlights all over. Buffalo shut them down, 31-10. A lot of bad quarterback play from Tua.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks to say this, after him coming off another major concussion, but I mean, up until that point, 3 picks, very inefficient. That's not the Tua we've used to seeing. We're used to seeing a more efficient Tua that might throw a pick every once in a while, but definitely not a 3 in a game and very inefficient with the ball. I think that Bills defense is for real.
It's underrated,
It is.
to say the least.
Sean McDermott is always going to have a good defense. You
Yeah.
could have average players at every position. I still think they'd have
He'll
a
get the
top
most
50.
out of 'em.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we're also not talking about enough how this Bills run game, again, like the Chiefs are shifting away from having their quarterback do everything for them.
Yeah.
You've got James Cook
Mm-hmm.
running for 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
Yep.
I turned off. I have him on fantasy. I look at him. He's getting 30 points. I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
The game just started.
I mean, the Bills had 31 points, and Josh Allen had 141 yards.
And that's scary because
Yeah.
Josh Allen can win you a game, and he
Josh
hasn't
Allen
had
will
to.
win you a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't need him to win games against good teams like the Dolphins,
Just wait
Because-
till postseason when he does turn it on.
yeah.
It's going to get scary.
Joe Brady's very underrated offensive coordinator. He knows how to get the most out of his weapons. He did it in LSU. They were just a pass-heavy offense because of the weapons they had. He realizes James Cook is an untapped weapon that can get a lot of the pass game and run game. He's going to utilize him, take pressure off his quarterback, and only call upon Josh when necessary.
I've loved how they've utilized Cook more in that passing game. We
Mhm.
hadn't seen that in the past. It was all
Mhm.
run with Cook. I'm happy to finally see him get involved in the pass, especially with them losing, Diggs, Davis, both of their top guys from last year. Kincaid had a good game last game. I'll say Kincaid.
Yeah,
Look,
he was more
Mhm.
active.
I was happy to see Kincaid get more looks and everything. I thought towards the end of the last season, they weren't using Kincaid enough like they were at the beginning, and that's kind of how we started to see a little bit of a fall off with the Bills.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that offense is still rolling without those top guys that they had in the past years.
They definitely switched styles. You can tell they're playing more efficient football, running more of the clock down, just slowing everything down and trying to play efficient and utilizing that run
It
game.
reminds me of that Chiefs team from last year.
A little bit. I can see what you're saying.
I think a lot of this also comes down to Josh Allen growing as a passer. He's no longer, hero balling it, taking
Yeah.
it, and trying to jump over the D line and run through a linebacker. He's actually just dumping it off to his checkdowns and going through his progressions. I mean, that's massive for Josh Allen. You start cutting down on those crazy plays.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're not going to see as many highlights from him, but we're also going to see a much more efficient game, which I think is going to get him to that next level to get him to the Super Bowl.
I think he realizes, in the middle of the season, Stephon goes out. But in your mind, you're still like a explosive team. You can still hit those big shots. So the rest of the season, I see why it kind of took a while to taper him down. But now that he's had an offseason to train and this new style of offense, he realizes I don't have those weapons. I do a little bit, but not the same. And I have to play a different style of football to get the same result, to win games. But safe to say defense won the game, though.
Oh yeah, that
Oh, yeah.
defense was locked down.
The Buffalo Epinesas, he's nice.
Yeah.
Taylor Rapp, they're getting the most out of him over there.
DeMar Hamlin
Yeah, DeMar Hamlin.
finished the
Comeback
game
kid,
with
comeback kid.
12 tackles, I
Yeah.
believe.
I liked him before the injury. I barely was recognizing who he was, and then that happened, and kind of derailed
No,
him a little bit.
everyone knows.
But it's good to
who
see.
he is. Yeah.
Good to see. All right, guys, moving on. Biggest surprises through week 2. I'm gonna start it off here. Buccaneers fend off the Lions to remain undefeated. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks are looking like the real deal. I hate to say it.
I've been calling it since
You both have.
episode 1 of the pod. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I was not surprised in that Buccaneers Lions win. If I was to put money on the game, I probably would have bet on Baker. I mean, he's rolling. He was rolling it last season. He's rolling this year. I'll keep saying it until it's recognized. He's a top 10 QB in the league.
He's playing like it. Against the Blitz on the Lions, he was 6 for 8. Against the Blitz this season, he's 71% completing his passes and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he might have figured this thing out. He might be in the right system. He might be rolling now.
I mean, Baker Mayfield to me looks like the MVP candidate that I've always known he is.
Okay.
Big Browns fan coming over here. We should never got rid of him, but he is everything that we wanted him to be in Cleveland. He is poised in the pocket. He is a leader in that locker room. He's probably turned this Buccaneers team, who just lost Tom Brady, into another Super Bowl contender.
It is a contender. I'll say it. I think it is a true contender. He looks like Oklahoma Baker.
Yeah.
This is like what the team wanted when they drafted him. This is who we got now.
Which makes me excited seeing you've got the Buccaneers juggernaut and you got this Saints juggernaut. I'm really excited to see who comes out of that division.
Thought that division was going to be a blunder, but now there's good football.
And then the
Is that
Falcons,
the best division in football right now?
Ooh. I wouldn't go so far just yet. If they do this for the first 9 weeks, all these teams in that division play like this, I'd jump on that train.
Minus the Panthers.
I mean, the Falcons look like they're figuring it out too.
They do.
Yeah, Kirk
got
looked
some
comfortable.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think the Lions, I'm going to talk about the Lions. I think they kind of screen passed themselves to death. 10% of the dropbacks were screen passes, resulting in like a 1-yard gain. They averaged 3.3 yards per screen pass in the entire season.
Goff's looking rough to start the season. I'll say it. He looked bad against the Rams, in my opinion. I mean, I'll say bad. He looked bad in both games, in my opinion. I mean, it's not the Goff we saw last year. It's not the Goff we seen in the playoffs last year.
Looks
either.
like there's rust, but at this point, you think there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 2 picks, no touchdowns. He really. I mean, usually you look at Goff as a guy who's not going to lose you the game, and I think he lost him that game.
I agree. If they would have won that game, it would have single-handedly been because of Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I mean, 4.5 sacks, a 22.9 passer rushing productivity rate from.
If you're a Lions fan, you hate to see a loss when you have a 4.5 sacks from one player on your team.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the defense was. It was a low-scoring game. They were producing. The defense did their job. That's for sure. They'll probably figure it out. Of course, Detroit will. But I stand by the take that put some pressure on Jared Goff. He's gonna fold. On to the next game, man. Raiders versus Ravens. This was a crazy one, guys. 26-23 Raiders on the road. Gardner Minshew to finish it off to Devontae Adams in the end zone to take the dub as a go-ahead touchdown. Derrick Henry was quoted saying they were just better, and that's why they won. How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't even say it's so much of I was so impressed by the Raiders. I was so unimpressed by Lamar's QB play. I mean, we've seen it so many times, I feel like now, of him underperforming in the clutch. I know people were saying it was maybe just against the Chiefs, that's his juggernaut, and then we see him underperform to the Raiders.
Raiders got some attitude on his team. I don't see them beating the Ravens, but I mean, it's any given Sunday out here. I think it was more of a defensive collapse in the fourth quarter by the Ravens. I mean, especially towards the end. Devontae Adams had 9 catches, 110 and a tub. Bowers 9 for 98.
The biggest thing that worries me about the Ravens is that they were leading going into that fourth quarter, and you have Derrick Henry, you have Lamar Jackson, Justice Hill, who's a solid back in this league.
Zay Flowers had a great game.
Zay Flowers had a great game, but going into the fourth quarter, that team is built to just grind the ball out and have the other team not even get that ball back. And I think it was back-to-back 3-and-outs. They're there to end the game, and I mean, you expected this team to maybe at least get 3.5 yards every play.
Yeah, 4 yards with Derrick Henry, you want.
Yeah.
I mean, he averaged that last year, and they said it was a down year for him.
Is Justin Tucker on a slight decline?
I think age is showing in the kicker. Yeah,
age is showing.
I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe there's just some weird stuff going on in Baltimore right now. There's no telling. I mean,
I'm not going to count him out, but
definitely not.
Nah.
Derrick Henry was 18 for 84 in a tub. I mean, if you give him that 20-25, he produces like you think he does.
Yeah.
I would die by that. I think most people will. Like, we've seen it time and time again. You have to give him the
I
ball
think
in the fourth quarter.
Henry gets better as the game goes longer because, I mean, you have to get tired of hitting him at some point.
I mean, he's
like
6'4",
Marshawn
250.
said, you gotta run through him over and over again.
And that's his philosophy. I mean, We see it. On to the next one, man. Eagles lose to the Falcons in a Monday night madness showdown. Kirk Cousins orchestrated a drive to come back 5 of 6 on the final drive for 70 and a touchdown. He got all the yards on that. Drake London caught the touchdown pass. 105 seconds, no timeouts. It was very impressive. How do you feel about Cousins' performance at the end of the game?
I was very impressed with that offense as a whole. But, I mean, Kirk, that first game, we both came back in here saying, is Penix going to have to start getting ready pretty soon? Is Kirk really just so rusty? Is he getting the age showing? And then he really shut us up this week, I feel like, especially with that last drive of the game. I mean, we saw a more calm and collected Kirk Cousins that we know from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk Cousins performing in prime time, that's
a big deal.
That's a real big deal. 5 for 5 on that last drive, looked amazing. Was orchestrating that drive. But, I mean, the big story coming from this isn't Kirk Cousins, isn't the Falcons. It's the Eagles just throwing that game away.
Yeah.
3rd and 2.
Or dropping the game away.
That's dropping.
Saquon.
But, I mean, 3rd and 2, you've got the clock running. You're the team you're going against is out of timeouts. They were, down by 2?
Mm-hmm.
They needed a field goal to win the game. You run the ball. You built this team to run the ball. You brought in Saquon Barkley to get you those 2 yards you needed to end the game. And you just don't?
Yeah, just throw it deep. I feel like Jalen Hurts has a Superman complex a little bit. You can see he has the full keys to this offense now. There's probably some little standoffishness between him and Sirianni. But I feel like he's operating like it's my team, and he's going to take the mistakes. But that's also going to make him very dangerous because he's not scared to throw that thing.
I was more impressed with that Falcons offense, though, than I was disappointed with the Eagles. I mean,
I think the Falcons have a good defense.
I think we knew going into the season, though, that Eagles defense was pretty suspect.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they got some rookies on the secondary side they need to learn fast.
Yeah.
But I think they're still a pretty good
They
defense.
let up, Darnell Mooney, that touchdown he had for about 40-something yards. I mean, he was wide open and then just makes 2 guys miss.
Yeah.
Well, continuing on with the Eagles, man, should the Eagles fire Sirianni? I mean, how do
Yes.
y'all feel about the coaching job of going down there?
I mean, that, like I just said, that last drive for the Eagles, I wouldn't say fire. I mean, you still got some goodwill there with that team, but it's not a good coaching decision. Throwing the ball whenever you have the running clock, no timeouts on the other team. I mean, everyone here has played Madden. You finish out that game.
Yeah. I mean, I think you probably didn't call the play, but you got the headset on too. You can hear what play's being called. You better know your offense and know what play's being called, and you have the power to overturn that. You think that's that number one matchup he's looking for is that deep ball. I'd tell him to call audible immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that play in that situation where you just got to ice the game out.
Yeah. And then I think some of his comments sometimes, I mean, it feels almost like he takes direct shots at players sometimes in the post game. I mean, we saw it last year. He's lost the locker room.
It looks like he's lost the team.
And are we going to start to see that already this season?
Not yet. I mean, Saquon came out and said that he should have caught the ball. That's on him. Play calling was great. But, I mean, we come back in week 8 and this Eagles team is 4-4. You're probably right. That team should be, number one contender in the NFC for sure.
Yeah, 100%. All right, man. Moving on. Lines of the week. This is where we do weekly line. Wyatt has some lines of the week. He locks them in himself, so he's not lying to you guys. Go ahead, Wyatt.
So this week I got Hunter Henry going for over 33 yards. He's coming off a 100-yard game, 12 targets. That just seems like a steal right there. I also got Matthew Stafford over 212. He's had over 212 his last 8 games. I don't see it stopping this week against the Niners in a game. It seems like they might have to throw the ball. And then my last one, I got Stephon Diggs over 46.5 yards. I know he hasn't hit that mark yet, but I think he's going up against a Vikings team that has allowed a lot of passing yards this season. He's had 12 targets through two games, so I mean he's still getting 6 targets a game, and I only see that to go up with Nico having 100 yards both weeks. I think it's obvious that Diggs turns into a main focal point for him.
Okay. All right, man. Moving on. Key matchups. We got a couple key matchups coming up this next week. I want to talk about games we get excited about. week 3 of the NFL season. First one we're going to dive into, guys, is the Ravens versus the Cowboys. This is the one everybody's talking about. Didn't think we'd be here in this position. I thought we'd probably have a couple undefeated teams playing. But as we sit, the Ravens are 0-2, Cowboys 1-1.
Must wins for both? Would you say must wins for both teams?
Yeah, I think so. In the beginning of the season, for sure, it's going to set the attitude, I think, of the rest of the season for your team. Question for you guys is, Cowboys run defense, how do you think it holds up against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it last week. They got killed in the run last week, and I don't think Jerome Ford had a bad week 1 either. I feel like they just got away from it. But I think
they got in a position where they couldn't run the ball.
Yeah. I think this week we see that big Derrick Henry game we've been waiting to see with the Ravens. I think we see that 100-yard plus game for Derrick Henry and just wear out that Cowboys defense.
Show the team that had rumors of signing him in the offseason what they missed out on.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, big time.
I mean, you look at both teams. Like I said, this is a must-win for both of them. I'm leaning more towards the Cowboy side, going to be honest. And that's a lot coming from me. I can't stand the Cowboys, but I just think that this defense, they're gonna hold down that Ravens offense. I mean, yeah, we're suspect on their run, but if Dak and crew can get this rolling, get ahead, and put the Ravens in a position where they have to throw the ball, I don't think that they're gonna succeed. And we just saw the Ravens throw away a game. I think even if they're leading in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys still have a shot to win this thing.
I'm going to go with the Ravens this week. I think, like I said, that defense on the Cowboys is fraudulent, very fraudulent. I think Jim Harbaugh is a good enough head coach. He's going to do what all these other coaches are doing to beat the Cowboys, and that's neutralize Micah Parsons. I think Zay Flowers is starting to get it rolling. Isaiah Likely has had a great 2 weeks so far, and they're not going to be able to stop the run. And, I mean, we saw the Dallas Cowboys offense last week look awful. Mm-hmm. And this is a good defense, so I'm going to take the Ravens pretty handily in this one.
Yeah, I take the Ravens as well. I'm more so taking Jim Harbaugh over Mike McCarthy. But also, I'm taking the Ravens' run defense. I think they're going to force Dak to pass, which Dak can do. That's what he's proficient in. But he doesn't do it well half the time.
You saw it last week.
Saw it last week.
I mean, you believe in this Ravens defense?
They're number one. Their run defense. It's the number 1 run defense in the NFL so far. They've only given up 99 yards.
Gardner Minshew was chopping them up there at the end, though.
Still, only not even 100 yards in the first 2 games speaks for itself.
Fair.
Gardner Minshew has better pass options, in my opinion, too.
He does. I'm going to take the Ravens. I'm thinking it's going to be closer. I think the run defense is going to stifle Elliott, Dowdle, going to force Dak to get out of the pocket. Now, if Dak gets out of the pocket efficiently and orchestrate the offense in a way where they're always rolling, I can see him getting some trouble, but I'm going to take the Ravens due to the coach and the defense.
I have a little bit of a fun game we can play. Who do you think makes the longer field goal, Tucker or Aubrey?
Honestly, Aubrey, man.
Give me Aubrey from 67.
All right.
I think we're all in agreement, though.
I think we're all with Aubrey.
He's taking that crown from Tucker for sure.
And I want to touch on Ezekiel Elliott a little bit. I mean, he does look better. He looks in better health and better shape. He's a little bit more agile out there, but I don't think he's a dangerous threat to this defense. He's averaging only 3.7 yards a carry. His longest run is 9 yards. So outside of that, Dowdle, he's not a threat either. I think the run game in Dallas is something that needs to be questioned. I see why they signed Dalvin Cook. Do you think that's going to be enough this season to go against top defenses like this?
No, I don't. I mean, you saw what happened last season when Pollard wasn't producing. If the run game for the Cowboys isn't producing, they're not winning games.
Yeah.
It's been a tell since Dak has been on the team. When they're not running the ball efficiently to take pressure off of the pass, they don't win football games.
I think Dak Prescott would benefit a lot from a coach and a system that doesn't put all the pressure on him, like ergo his rookie season. Because when you got him out there trying to will them to wins, it never ends up good.
No.
I mean, it's a lot of quarterbacks in this league, though. If you're just going to discount Dak because he's not out there able to will him to wins, that's like, what, I'd say 95% of the quarterbacks in this league.
Probably 3 or 4 guys that can do that.
Yeah.
It's a rare trait for sure. But you think, I guess that's more on his coaching. You think they would orchestrate the offense around his strongest points of his game, and they year in, year out, they failed to do so. I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, I would question the Mike McCarthy hire to begin with. I felt like he always underperformed with that Packers team.
I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers and
Jordy Nelson, Greg
Yeah.
Jennings. I
Favre.
mean,
and
we
you only
could.
you only get one Super Bowl out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're projected to be in the Super Bowl multiple times, and it's not you just win one, you get to one.
Yeah.
And this Cowboys team is known for underperforming in the playoffs. What makes you think getting a coach that underperforms in the playoffs is going to help you win playoff games? It's just not a good formula.
It's a really good point. Lamar Jackson is 20-1 against NFC teams. I guess the unfamiliarity with his playing him all the time shows in these games against NFC. I think he'll be 21-1 after this week.
I'm calling a 100-yard game from him and Derrick Henry.
Ooh.
Passing or rushing?
Rushing.
All right, man. Moving on. Key matchups. Another game we're excited about this week is Lions versus the Cardinals.
I think this will be the game of the week.
It might be the game of the week. It has potential. I mean, the Cardinals absolutely tore down the Rams last week.
A Rams offense or a Rams team we thought was, playoff bound.
I still think they are, but I mean, this is what I'm going to say is the toughest division of football right here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got the 49ers, you've got the Rams, Cardinals come out of nowhere, Seahawks that play good ball.
Seahawks are 2-0.
Yeah, the Seahawks are 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
But the 49ers hurt, the Rams hurt. You could see the Seahawks or Cardinals come away with this division easy.
Yeah, you could. It's up in the air for sure, especially with the health questions in San Francisco. Detroit's a 3-point favorite on the road.
Is it? It's on the road?
So they're favored to win heavily.
Wow.
I think people are underestimating Kyler Murray, this offense, the coach. Marvin Harrison last week was crazy.
I mean, Kyler Murray was one good read away from beating the Bills in week 1. I mean, Marvin Harrison wide open. We all saw the clip.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next week he targeting him first quarter.
Yeah.
4 receptions, 130 yards and two touchdowns. That's
I saw a stat where Marvin Harrison's first touchdown, he had 0.7 inches to catch the ball room, and he had 0.7 inches before he stepped out of bounds. That was the probability of his catch. It was very, very
he's
low.
special.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing to see. Kyler Murray's dark horse MVP candidate right now. He's playing like
I'm glad to
lights
see
out.
healthy Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's exciting.
especially coming off that ACL injury.
He looks really, really good.
You never know if that player's going to be the same coming off an injury like that, and seeing him be able to be as mobile as he was before the injury, making decisions like way downfield that we haven't seen him do in a long time.
Yeah.
This Cardinals offense is very exciting. And not to discount their defense, but they held them to 3 points last week?
10, I think.
10?
41-10, I think was the final score. Mm-hmm.
But
And one was a garbage time touchdown, I believe.
So I'm guessing with all this talk, y'all are taking the Cardinals then, right?
Ooh, I'd see.
I am. I'm big on
I think
them.
I am going to take the Cardinals and upset of the week right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Lions. I think the Cardinals
Chalk.
the Cardinals lose week 1 to a good NFL team, and the Cardinals, they do beat a Rams team, but an injured Rams team. Kupp goes out, Puka goes out. We've seen Stafford struggle when he doesn't have at least one of those guys.
The defense was healthy, was
The
it not?
defense was healthy.
They still
The
put up
defense
41.
was, yes.
Yeah.
But I've had questions about this defense since week 1. I was saying at week 1, I don't know how this Rams team's going to do because I question the defense, and I'm going to still stand by that. I question the defense.
We're just looking at matchups, though. I mean, the Rams and Lions went to OT in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is true, but matchups aren't going to tell you everything because different teams are going to match up better with other
That
teams.
is true.
So, I mean, give me the Lions, and I think this week's going to show the Lions are a top dog in the NFC, and the Cardinals are still a young team that will be there in a couple years. They're not there yet.
All
I
right,
think
then-
you may be forgetting that they got a coach that comes from that Super Bowl Philadelphia team, Jonathan Gannon, right?
and that Philly team has looked
You
a
can say
lot
that, but
different
that defense,
since
he has that defense
yeah.
looking right with no names.
I mean, I'm definitely taking the Lions. If y'all are so confident in the Cardinals, though, we can make this a little more fun if y'all want to.
I mean, do you think the Lions will cover?
Yeah,
Really?
I do.
Wow.
Okay. I'm going to go out and say it now. I think winning football is back in Arizona.
Yeah.
It looks like it. Maybe too soon, but it's a good time to be a Cardinals fan right now. You should be excited.
I think next week we will have a different conversation where y'all are saying I was right and y'all were wrong. But
I think it's gonna be a good game no matter what. Though.
Yeah. Probably going to be my favorite game. Should
Yeah.
be. Has potential to be.
I'm calling Lions double digits.
Whoa.
Okay.
So barely 10, like a field goal at the end of the game.
I'll say 13.
Okay.
Lions by 13.
By 13?
13.
Jesus. All right, moving on, man. On to the next one. Chiefs versus the Falcons, the game that we didn't think we'd want to see.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins looked very good. We spoke about it earlier. The offense looks alive. Kansas City's defense giving up 256 passing yards a game. They're looking a little suspect in the secondary. You think the Falcons will come alive in this game? Who do you look to have a big game?
Um, yeah, I'm gonna take the Falcons this week. I think the Chiefs drop one every year at the beginning of the year, and I think the Falcons are I'll call it a trap game.
Okay.
You come off two big games against two big teams where you squeak by with wins. I think maybe they're feeling a little comfortable. Oh, we beat two big teams. Now we're going to the Falcons. The Falcons beat the Eagles last week, but I think they're going to underestimate the Falcons, and I think the Falcons come out and shock a lot of people, and they shock the Chiefs too. I'm expecting Bijan has had 100 yards 6 of his last 8 games. Bijan's getting the ball going. We saw Drake London really get it going last week. And, I think this offense just keeps rolling, and I think the Falcons beat the Chiefs this week.
Let me ask this, though. Without that last drive, do you still have that same take?
I'll say yeah. I'm banking on the Chiefs to do what they've done over the past couple of years, and that's drop one to a team we're not expecting them to drop one to.
If I didn't see that version of Kirk Cousins that last drive, I wouldn't feel the way I do. I'm going to take the Falcons here. I feel like it's a trap game. I think Atlanta's defense would give Mahomes some trouble, more than he's probably expecting. Yeah. Chiefs are they did open as 3.5 favorites on the road. So some illusion there, but
that Falcons defense is the real deal, though.
I think they're a really good defense. Jesse Bates closed the game out. I
don't think that this is going to be because the Falcons are just that much better. I think it's because we're losing Pacheco on the offensive side for the Chiefs. That's their focal point for the past 2 years. Maybe Carson Steele steps in, but I'm agreeing with you guys on this is the Falcons win, but I don't think it's because the Falcons are that much better than the Chiefs. I think it's because this offense is going to have to figure out what they're going to do to win games now.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. I'll say that Chiefs, they struggle. I think they struggle this week trying to find that identity. I think we'll see Mahomes trying to do a little too much.
Maybe will them the win.
Yeah,
like
he could. He is one of those guys that we can do that.
Yeah.
But with Kelsey struggling, Pacheco gone, Xavier Worthy still trying to find, his exact role in this offense, I don't think Mahomes and Rashee Rice can get this job done.
I think you take away Rashee Rice, that game goes to the Falcons.
Yeah. Oh, undoubtedly. I think we're going to see a little bit of a Carson Steele emergence here. I think, as you spoke to earlier, we could see ergo 49ers here, where they just plug a guy in that wants to play, and that offense is good enough and schemed up enough.
They do have similar styles. Yeah. They have
we were very excited about
let's
Carson
not forget
Steele.
when the running game fails, who is able to go out there and pick up 80 yards a game? Patrick Mahomes. Does it
Oh, yeah.
year in, year out.
I think maybe this is the game where we see Kelsey come back, though. It's got to be. It's got to be for them to win.
I think Kelsey might continue to struggle. It's not that I know he has that pedigree to go have those big games, but he doesn't look the same.
He doesn't. He looks like, he's been enjoying life outside of football, and
happy for the guy.
Good for the guy. He deserves it.
I think
this may be his last year. I think this might be his last year.
Go do podcasts.
Yeah, I would. But the Atlanta defense, we were talking about it. They're stout, man. The pass defense is good. 7th best so far, 156 yards a game. It is only week 2, only 2 games in. So, you have Mahomes throwing over under 200 yards this game.
200?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he'll always get 200. I feel like. Until I see a Mahomes game where it's like, whoa, Mahomes didn't get 200 yards. I'm gonna take him to get 200.
Okay. The only time I really seen Mahomes play bad was not his rookie season, but the first season he really started was against that Denver offense or defense in Denver. But ever since then, Mahomes has been rock solid.
I disagree with that. I think we've seen Mahomes play bad at least 5 times a year, and then he realizes he's playing bad in the middle of the game.
But bad for Mahomes is still top 15 quarterback in the league.
He makes questionable throws. He makes
bad for Mahomes though. He'll get interceptions, but he always gets yards.
Yeah.
So if it's just the 200 yards, for sure.
Okay.
Now, if we're saying, does he throw a pick? Yes. Are we saying, does he throw 2 picks? Possibly.
Get that 1.5 line, bro.
Yeah. All right, man. On to the next game. Everybody's favorite game, obviously, the Texans versus the Vikings. A couple undefeated teams here. We knew Texans were going to be here. At least I did. Very surprised by the Vikings start. Well, you guys might be. I spoke to Sam Darnold starting off hot.
You did.
I thought he was going to do really well in this offense. I think Kevin O'Connell is a real legit contender for Coach of the Year. But they are missing Jefferson, and Addison may be out as well.
I don't think – is Jefferson missing this game, or is it just a contusion?
Is it just a contusion?
I think
Last I
so.
heard, he's questionable, so
Like,
he may miss, may not. Hopefully
yeah.
not for Sam Darnold's sake. Who would step up in case he did miss?
If Addison isn't out there, Jefferson isn't out there, it's going to be a slaughter.
Yeah.
The Vikings get obliterated.
Who does their offense go through? I mean, you got Aaron Jones. That's it.
Yeah.
Really?
Versus a top 3 defense, in my opinion, in football with the Texans defense. I mean, that pass rush itself is amazing. And then I think that secondary might be the most slept on secondary in football. I mean, that defense overall looks amazing to me.
Yeah, they played with some fire against the Bears. Caleb Williams definitely felt the most of that 7 sacks against Caleb Williams. The defense is very stout. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a coming out game for this year's Texans. I think the rust is gone. I think CJ goes out there, throws over 300, 3 touchdowns. If Joe Mixon does play, has a big day. If not, Cam Akers will suit the role, fill the role suitably. I don't think the Vikings continue their undefeated streak.
I mean, I think this is a win for the Texans. Easy win. But as far as saying, crowning the Texans after 3 wins against the Colts team that has Anthony Richardson that can't stop throwing picks and a rookie quarterback, we can't crown him yet. I mean,
I'm not crowning them. I see where the
progression's
backlash
there
is.
for sure.
It's there. I think it's a lot more of a dangerous team than people want to give credit to. Because if they go out and beat this Viking team, so you're going to be like, us, the Vikings, Sam Darnold, but it's the same team plus or minus Jefferson
That just wiped the 49ers.
Dismantled the 49ers.
And like we said, Mahomes early in his career, we never really saw him play very bad. We haven't seen CJ Stroud play bad.
No, I think arguably the most efficient in the game, CJ is. I'm very excited to see what this season holds for us. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think the Vikings offense is very good, a lot better than people believe. And Brian Flores is a mastermind. He doesn't get enough credit as a defensive coordinator. It seems like he has Kyle Shanahan's number the last few years.
Always matches up well.
Very. We know the blitz is coming.
Yeah.
In a Brian Flores defense.
I think they just make Brock Purdy win that game. And
yeah, and he can't. I don't think he can.
Hate it, but he's just not that guy.
No. CJ matches up very well against the blitz. He knows to get it out.
Underrated thing, though, I mean, about that 49ers game, they don't have CMC. Debo, did he leave the game early, or is that just an injury that happened after?
I think he left the game early.
So you've got a team that
he's listed doubtful this week.
I remember last year against the Browns, similar situation happened to Brock Purdy, and he did not look good against the Browns. So
no, it was also a bad weather game too.
Yeah,
I thought he put them in a position to win the game at the end of the game. Purdy did against the Browns, and they couldn't do it. He missed the kick, I believe. Jake Moody did. I think this win versus the 49ers, the Vikings just has very convincing that, I mean, competition is very good in the NFL now. Even bad teams aren't bad.
A lot of parity.
There's a lot of parity. Early in the season, there's always going to be that. Who are, through week 2, I want to get your number 1 contenders for MVP, number 1 contenders for Defensive Player of the Year.
Defensive Player of the Year, I mean, give me Aiden Hutchinson, 4.5 sacks. And then I believe he had 1.5 week 1.
He has 5.5 sacks. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's definitely going to be my week 2, I guess, Defensive Player of the Year. And for MVP, I'm going to rock with Baker Mayfield. 2-0 team, rolling. Called it from the beginning of the season. Baker Mayfield would be my MVP as of right now.
I mean,
are you going to ditto that?
I mean, I would, but if this Saints offense plays the same as they've been playing for the past 2 weeks for the rest of the year, how do you not give it to Derek Carr?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to choose the guy who's going to put his head down, lead him to the playoffs. I'm going to choose Josh Allen. I'm on this revenge season heavy, man. I think he's going to be the MVP.
I just don't think he's the reason they're winning these games, though. I think voters will see that, and he's...
Last year, was he the reason they were losing some of those games?
I don't know.
I'd say so arguably, some of the decisions he would make.
I think it was the negative energy on that team. I mean, it seemed like Stephon Diggs towards the end of the season was just sucking the energy out of that team.
Yeah, it's hard to see a picture from both sides.
Yeah.
You never know.
Outside looking in, we say a lot of things.
Of course, there was some discomfort there.
Defensive Player of the Year, who you got?
Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go Will Anderson.
Surprised he didn't say
but
Derek Stingley.
I actually did say Derek Stingley, but Will Anderson is looking good. I was early on Derek Stingley. I think I said that twice already.
Yep.
Derek Stingley's gonna have a good year. He's gonna have some. He gives up some plays a little bit every now and then, but he's gonna have a good year. But Will Anderson looks big, strong, fast. He's electric, man. And with that defense, the way it's schemed up, give me Will Anderson for Defensive Player of the Year.
Give me Max Crosby. I
I
mean,
like it.
he had a bad game against Joe Alt. I mean,
Joe
or did Joe Alt have the best game of his career?
Yeah, Joel might be that guy.
Joe
Rookie of the
Alt's
year. But yeah, give me Max Crosby. He's always been right there. I think that he's going to take the step to finally get that Defensive Player of the Year. He's been looked over by, a lot of people just looking at TJ Watt and Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, big Garrett guy over here, but I think this is the year he finally steps up and says, I am the guy.
All right, man. To end it out, we're running out of time, unfortunately. Give me one crazy hot take that you've been cooking all week.
The Jags need to move on at quarterback after this season.
Oh, wow. After already signing him to the extension?
Yeah, I mean, they put themselves in a bad predicament, I think. Daniel Jones 2.0 type of thing.
That bad?
I mean, he's lost his last 7 games,
Mm.
and he's played multiple very winnable opponents.
That's true. He's lost some games, or he just hasn't gone and won games. Kind of looks like Justin Herbert's beginning his career.
I mean,
You're that guy for a reason. You get paid that for a reason. If you're in a position, we need you to win the game.
we're talking about number 1 picks. I mean, number 1 picks are supposed to be franchise game-changing players,
Yeah.
especially at the quarterback position. If you would have told me when Trevor Lawrence got drafted, I would have said, oh, the Jags are going to be one of the best teams in the league in 3 years. They're not. They haven't even looked very good. I mean,
I think that comes back to, an organizational situation, though. You look at Bryce Young, who didn't have positions
Yeah.
built around him. You look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he had Christian Kirk, who's okay. I wouldn't call him a 1 for sure. Calvin Ridley, who's coming off of a season where he hadn't played in,
a year,
year and a
over
half?
Yeah,
Yeah.
over a year.
I don't think that he's had weapons put around him. I mean, ETN's really the only weapon that I could point at and say, okay, you're moving in the right direction on that offense.
I'm going to disagree.
I would argue a little bit opposite. I think they're trying at least.
Yeah.
The offensive line is decent. Not the best in the league, but you could have worse. They got some guys on that offensive line. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., they drafted him. They're bringing help to him. ETN, they drafted him. It's his college teammate. They drafted him. He's produced very well. Evan Ingram's produced. They put guys around him. Health kind of sucks, but, I mean, at this point, how much more can you ask for? When you see the emergence of guys like, like CJ or Josh, how they did a little with nothing at the beginning of their careers and then got some help, and Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the most hype quarterback prospect we've seen in 15 years, you kind of got to do it on your own at some point.
I've been high on Trevor Lawrence. I would still love for Trevor Lawrence to succeed, but I mean, losing 7 of your last 7 games is not a good look at all.
But
He had a little injury.
You move on, yeah, but where do you go from here? Do you try and rebuild in the draft? Do you look for a free agent? But I think there's not really an option out there that's better than Trevor
Kind of how the
Lawrence.
Cowboy situation
Yeah.
is, too.
I mean, I could see that being an option, but I'm just saying, I mean, at some point you have to say, like, enough is enough.
Do you
Like,
just
you're a team that was in the divisional round a few years ago, and what have you done since then? Lose football games.
They've also lost a lot of defensive players from that divisional round.
I get the defense, but that offense isn't producing. It's one thing when the defense isn't producing, but I mean, when you go and get a first-round pick, you have a tight end that had 100 receptions last year. You'll go get a top deep threat from the Bills with Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk had a
You call
great season
Gabe
last
Davis
year.
a top deep threat?
He is a great deep threat. He was a great deep threat for the Bills.
Yeah, I think he made that offense a little more explosive. I wouldn't put him in a top category, but he's
And you got,
serviceable.
He's
and you got a guy
serviceable.
like
He's-
Etienne. You have all these guys. There's no reason your offense shouldn't be producing, and it's not producing.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the Cowboys go put up 31 against the Browns.
It's kind of like
the Jags struggle to move the ball.
They're gonna
I mean, the Browns defense is still good.
they're gonna
They
be
just
held.
got put in a bad spot against the Cowboy game.
They're gonna be held kind of like the Bengals over Joe Burrow. You've seen that greatness early,
Yeah.
and you can still see it later, and they might hold on for too long. Time will tell. I like that take, Ricky.
Man, I really don't have much.
You don't
over
have a
here.
hot take?
I don't have a hot
I
take.
got a hot take for you, man. Drake May needs to start. The best time for a rookie quarterback to start when your defense is playing well and your playmakers are playing well. Your run game's efficient. Start Drake May. If he's gonna learn, let him learn behind a defense, a special teams, and a running game that's already strong.
I'm
Best
gonna
time to learn.
100% disagree.
Okay.
You don't stop what's working. I mean, you're winning with Brissett. Why would you change up now to a rookie? I mean, I think you let it ride a little bit.
Because you're looking for the future. You're not looking for this year.
I mean, well, you're
Well,
2-0 right now.
yeah.
You look for this year until this year
We all
isn't
know that's
available.
gonna.
I mean,
But
did
Brissett's
they
not taking him nowhere.
did they start Mahomes?
There's
Yeah.
Mahomes and
You
Love.
know?
They sat. I get that. I mean, did they start CJ? Yeah.
But-
Did they start
But you
Matt
had
Stafford?
you had a
Yeah.
winning team in Kansas City, who was doing well with Alex Smith.
Yeah.
You could call Alex Smith a
some guys need to
transitional
sit a little
quarterback.
bit.
Yeah,
I'm not against it, but I feel like I'm big on this. The faster you fail, the faster you can succeed. If you don't put them in there eventually, you want to have a winning quarterback sooner than later.
There's yes
Because it
and
is New England. I'd throw them in there.
there's yes and no's to that though. I mean, you see guys get thrown in too early. I think what they're doing
Bryce
is very
Young.
smart. Bryce Young,
They don't have a
Sam
run game.
Darnold had it with the
Yeah.
Jets. Zach Wilson also. I mean, we've seen
the Jets organization.
sounds like it.
I mean,
but
we also saw Mac Jones' success. They had that downfall because of the poor handling, I believe, on him, on Belichick's. He was out the door. Just a weird situation. But rookies can succeed on this team.
not with this team. I think they need a veteran
They-
guy who's been in the league for a little bit. They don't have those weapons to cover up for a rookie quarterback.
Mhm. I mean, your number one guy is Hunter Henry. I mean,
Hunter Henry, when he first started, was a top tight end.
Yeah.
coming
Top
out of
10 tight
Arkansas,
end.
yeah, but it's been a long time since he played at
He
Arkansas.
still
Yeah.
shows the flashes. He showed it last year.
Tell me a
And
rookie QB that has succeeded with no weapons.
We
Mm.
just saw it last year. Who the fuck was Nico Collins before last year? A guy who hadn't even had 400 yards
I mean,
in a season.
still call Nico a weapon though.
But he wasn't though. You would
He
never
was
have
looking
called him that.
okay.
You would
with-
never have called. Nobody ever would have come out their mouth beginning of last year and be like, Nico Collins, that's a weapon right there. We were like, I don't know. He's put 400 yards up.
I mean, yeah, we've seen it with CJ. Tell me one other quarterback because we are already saying CJ's on a whole different level than
But that's
what
what
we've
we're
seen.
living in. The time we're living in is, I mean,
I mean, you can't
same
say
thing
with
Caleb
Mahomes. He
Williams.
had Tyreek coming into it,
and
he had
especially with the
Kelsey.
New England, I get that, yeah. And Kelsey, he had some
Yeah.
bets on him. Especially in the New England situation, I'm gonna want to see if Drake May can play because I also want to see if Joe Milton can play.
I want to see them see if they can play, but I want to see it when, they don't have a 2-0 record and as much on the line. I mean, why would you throw a rookie in to a winning
I mean, they're
thing
in,
right now? I mean,
they're
Look
in
at
the
Ben
divisional
Roethlisberger.
race.
He got thrown in. Damn near went to Super Bowl his rookie year. I mean, if you're great, you're going to be great, I believe. 100%. I mean, what is the expectations for this year? They're not going to the fucking playoffs.
I mean, right now they are.
you
No,
got
they're
to
not.
they're-
you got to
they're
keep
leading-
this rolling. I mean,
They're
you got to
tied for the
keep.
division.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he should start when they ultimately fall off.
I think
You
should
gotta
start
keep
now
rolling
while
with
the
what's
rest
working.
Of the team is confident they're playing good.
I mean, what's a good way to ruin a team's mojo though? Switch up a quarterback week 3 on a 2-0
Or
football
just
team.
have Jacoby Brissett play more than 4 games in a season. It's
Wait.
the same thing.
We've been saying they're 2-0.
They're 2-0.
Are
They
they?
beat
No,
they beat the Seahawks,
no, they lost.
They
did
lost.
lose. but I mean, still they took that team to OT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good Seahawks team. They're rolling with Brissett. They're in
They're
every
rolling with
game.
them. I understand that, but I'd put Drake May in. You're not going nowhere with Brissett. Nobody ever has. One Colts team a long time ago almost did.
I mean, the Brissett's he started in this New England franchise. He knows this team. He knows the playbook. I mean,
I think this is a great year for May to have that Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes sit and learn
Jordan
season.
Love sat for 4 years though. Mahomes is the only guy you can arguably say sit for 1 year. Joe Burrow, year 1, we saw the flashes. Year 2, go to the Super Bowl. I'm big on the bus. I mean, you got another guy behind him, Joe Milton. If he can't play, I feel like one of them gaps can play.
But we've seen that the sitting works. So I say you
I've
let him
seen-
sit, you let him learn, and then you throw him
Sitting
into the
works
fire
to
next
what
year.
degree though?
I mean,
you got Mahomes. He's the outlier for the Super Bowls. But outside of that, what else do you have?
there's
You're
no
getting more
reason.
success from the guys that are playing year 1. You're
But
seeing
the-
them go to the playoffs in a divisional every year.
There's no reason to do it week 3. I mean, they're 1-1. You're still in the running. Come back, they're 4-10. Then you can throw him in there and see what he's got.
And then you got a discouraged team though. That's playing for you now. You don't have a team that's confident, hot and heavy. Oh, your rookie throws one deep and everybody goes crazy. Like, oh, we got a guy
Mm-hmm.
who can stretch the field with his arm, who's a playmaker, who's also agile. I think you throw him in with a confident team.
I don't. Another guy we saw sit and end up succeeding, Lamar Jackson. It shows when we've seen 3 guys that have sat, Love, Mahomes, Jackson. All 3 of them are elite quarterbacks.
You know who else did? Brady.
Tom Brady.
I mean, we in New
And
England
the
might as well talk
formula
about
works.
him. Yeah,
Brady was jumped in his rookie year, was he not?
After an
after
injury.
an injury.
But he
Like-
was originally sitting and learning.
For a couple weeks, and then he finished the year off, right? Because they had a long rookie season of 12 games. I think it was.
It was like midway through that season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm here for the now. I mean, it's the league we live in now. You can play or you can't. I'm just very big on if you can play, you got it. You got it. I mean, we see it.
I think we'll see success from Penix and from May if they just with this formula.
Okay.
Because I mean, we've seen the rookies in this class not do so well so far.
But they're also adapting every week. We've seen the progression from week 1 to week 2.
Have we?
I mean,
Yes. Clearly, with Caleb Williams, he doesn't have a good offensive line.
Bo
You see
Nix has
special-
progressed?
Bo Nix.
He's played 2 top defenses. Get him on a regular team as a rookie. Come in as a rookie, you're playing Seattle, then you got Pittsburgh right
Jaden
after
Williams. I mean, he looked okay against New York, but
Jane, it's New York, bro.
Yeah.
Anyone's gonna look good against
Yeah.
us.
that. I think for a rookie standard, they're progressing week by week. I've seen the progression from all 3 guys. Are they going to be stars? That's out for debate, but I've seen progression. You can't expect like a Joe Burrow come in or a Stroud come in. Like, it's not always going to look like that. All right, man, we're out of time. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate y'all for joining us. This is the Fourth and Football Podcast. I've been Jacob.
I'm Wyatt.
and I'm Ricky.
Peace out.